This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, Level 2, Part 2 on our teaching about sexuality. This is about unhealthy sexuality. So I wanted to start off with telling everyone about the way that you were designed and what you were supposed to be experiencing, and now I will get into an analysis of current human social and cultural isms or behavior patterns, and how that relates to the targeted genetic manipulation that has degraded and hijacked human sexuality. So, Lesson 18 of Level 1, I speak all about galactic history, and it is not a surprise that the human genetic code has been altered and changed by extraterrestrials. In fact, extraterrestrials incepted humans, so there has been a lot of influence both in the creation and development of humans along the way. The male genitals, the penis, has been targeted and changed. However, it's not that it's been changed in its size, shape, or appearance, but it's been changed in its... So the first thing is it has been desensitized, and you must forgive my crude drawings. And the second thing is it has been cut off or no longer connected to the orange emotional mammalian centers. Okay, so it is not my intention to make males feel bad about themselves. People who are currently in a male body, though, have to be aware that your genes have been changed and your biology has been changed. So the penis does not function the way it was intended to. Originally, the penis, being an externalized organ of great sensitivity, was meant to make males be more sensitive because they have this big, huge area of vulnerability that extends, out beyond them. Various cultural, social, and religious practices have led to the desensitization. So now we're going to get into circumcision. So this, I have crudely drawn, this is the foreskin of the penis, and when the penis is circumcised and that is taken off, then it means that this area that would have been covered up except during the act of intercourse is now constantly exposed, and it has a desensitization effect. It means that that area of the body is not as sensitive as it would have been if it had not been changed. Let's even examine the cultural ism of circumcision, because it is so pervasive, especially in the United States, that many people do not even question where it comes from. It comes from the Judeo-Christian religion, but it has been established from what I am speaking about that the Judeo-Christian religion is not a religion that comes, on high from God, but that comes from a lower level astral entity, Jehovah, who essentially asks for ritual sacrifice. The foreskin is a ritual sacrifice that each male is asked to give to this. I would not call it a real god. I would call it a false deity or a demigod, that this is one of those lower vibrational entities that does not feed off of love, but requires some other lower vibrational, denser emotion to feed off of. And that is where the practice of circumcision came from. So, males, I am so sorry to hear that this has been done to you, and so sorry to tell you about the way in which your divine sexuality has been degraded. So that's one of the first things, physical circumcision. But one of the other things is, and this is all in teaching, it's not necessarily something that was done energetically. So it's something that if it can be done, it can be undone. But the arousal mechanism between the penis and the emotional center has been cut off. So what I'm saying here is that in the current culture that we find ourselves in, the stimulation that makes a man feel arousal in his penis is not connected to the orange emotional mammalian centers as it should be. So these orange emotional mammalian centers are in existence for a reason. So let's say this is lion number 1 over here, and this is, lion or animal number 2 over here, and let's say they get together and they procreate and they make a little tiny baby lion over here. Well, the emotional centers of this mammal engaged to its penis means that it is not aroused when it looks at this little baby. It says, that is my baby. I do not see that as a possible prospective sexual partner. I see that as a being that I need to take care of. So the connection to penis arousal, from penis arousal to the emotional mammalian centers, is necessary to prevent inappropriate reproductive partnership. You should not reproduce with your own offspring or with partners that are not fertile. So the whole idea of the emotional center being connected to male arousal is that males should only be aroused in the presence of appropriate fertile female partners. This is how it should be. And also, females should have a fully functioning filter that keeps out any inappropriate partners. Unfortunately, males have been taught and energetically encouraged to sever the connection between their emotions and the arousal of their penis. So what this means is that males often feel aroused in the presence of or in the stimulation of totally inappropriate objects or people. In this time and place, some males are aroused in the presence of sock puppets. Clearly, no offspring, there is no viable offspring between a penis and a sock puppet. And yet, some males in this time and place are aroused by that. So what we're talking about now are aberrations. Even the idea of prostitution is an aberration, and I'll give you an example. If you were a male and you were connected, here I'm just drawing a man with a penis, and you are connected to your emotional center, and if you see, let's say, here's pornography over here, I drew that before, I think. If you attenuate to the female in the pornography, and you are not connected to your emotional center, if there's not a connection over here, then the male might say, yes, I feel sexual energy, I feel aroused, I want to have sex with that person in that picture as my partner. But when the male actually engages the emotional mammalian center, how do you really feel about the woman in this picture? Or the woman who is the stripper dancing on the pole in the bar that you are at? Or the woman who is being objectified by the pornography that you are looking at? If a male actually connects to their mammalian emotional centers, they begin to feel pity, not arousal, because any woman who is essentially selling their sexuality is doing so out of a sense of desperation. It is rarely, if ever, out of a sense of personal empowerment. Mostly it is because even though, the woman in the picture might be studying to go to nursing school, if this man over here, male, is at all socially conscious, then they understand that this woman in the pornography does not have a good life, and that it's something that this male would not wish for their own mother or sister or female offspring. And then the arousal tends to dissipate. Same thing with, like child pornography, the children that are sold into sexual slavery in places like Thailand because literally their families cannot afford to feed them. And then wealthy male American tourists go on vacation to Thailand and, see like a child dancing like a stripper. And if that male is at all connected to their emotional centers, they would say that's absolutely tragic that there's a child being sold into slavery as opposed to going to school and learning to read and write. And I'm also going to draw the distinction here. We do not, in this time and place, have females performing the same behavior. There is absolutely an energetic, anatomical, and genetic and social difference between female sexuality as it is expressed in this time and place and male sexuality. And that has to do with that males' equipment, your penises have been changed and your connection to the emotional centers have been severed, because females, being connected to their emotions as a very big part of their reproductive stimulation, would never be interested or stimulated by the image of, a little boy who is, naked and dancing around a pole or in some way victimized or disempowered. That is an aspect of unhealthy sexuality. So no offense to males. This is said with utter love and compassion for you, that if you're born into a male body in this time and place, you have great hurdles to overcome. Essentially, you have to disengage yourself from the teachings of this time and place, the teachings of society. So I've witnessed this in the interactions between a friend's teenage son and a non-member of the family who was the tattoo artist, a person who has profession. Basically, his whole approach is to objectify women. And I watched this older guy, this dude, take the younger teenage guy, quote unquote, under his wing and begin to teach him how to objectify women. So it is a social program that is passed from one generation to another and not necessarily within the family. It's cultural. This is also the justification for why women need to wear a burqa, right? You need to cover yourself up entirely because males are not able to control their arousal. Let's also talk about this filter. So in the previous lesson of healthy sexuality, I spoke about how females have this filter that is supposed to keep out inappropriate sexual partners. Because again, we're talking about babies. We're talking about who you are going to get together and have a baby with. And let's say this male lion over here, let's say they're hardly deformed, whatever. Maybe they have two noses or, something really wrong with them. And this woman over here says, no, I don't want my baby to have two noses, so no, you're not allowed to come inside. Or maybe this lion is very violent, and maybe this being says, no, I do not wish to expose myself in vulnerability and lovemaking to a violent partner. And that helps to make sure that I'm not going to have violent children who will turn around and eat me. When abuse happens, and abuse is defined as going against boundaries. It can be done verbally, it can be done with a hand, it can be done with actual genital touching. When this filter over here is broken by someone going through it. So here's someone just went through that filter. So it could be something simple. It could be a little girl wearing a skirt on the subway, and somebody reaches up underneath her skirt and touches her in a private place without her permission. Or it could be familial. It could be going to visit grandmother or grandfather or Uncle Harry, and somebody older in the family abuses you. It could be a clergy member, and now we're getting into satanic abuse. Because you understand that it is the teachings of the church, the teachings of the Judeo-Christian church that say that the level of your genitals is bad, wrong, and shameful and dirty. These are not the teachings of Tantric Hinduism. The Far East looks at sexuality very differently. In the Far East, temples are carved on all sides with images of Tantra. And when I talk about healthy sexuality, people often say, that sounds like Tantric sexuality, because the Hindu tradition is an outgrowth of the teachings of ancient Atlantis and kept alive some of the subtle teachings about sexuality and the use of your non-physical subtle energy like the kundalini that goes up your spine. So that information was kept alive and vital in the Hindu tradition. The Church of Christianity, as it currently stands, is truly the Church of the Antichrist. It teaches that this area of the body is bad, wrong, and shameful, and that you are sinful by your basic nature, and that you should never touch this area of your body, and that feelings of pleasure in that area of your body are wrong. During the time of the Inquisition, quote unquote, the Dark Ages, the church even taught people never to wash your genitals and to actually sew yourself into your long underwear during the winter season. Literally, you get sewn into your long johns with no flap and no way to wash, okay? This is basically taking people away from one of their sources of energy, in which is also your connection to the planet. Earth, look where I'm drawing Earth in this beautiful testy down here. But sexuality and reproduction have to do with you as an earthly, mundane being. And your healthy expression of your sexuality has to do with your connection to the planet. The current degraded level of human sexuality means that Earth herself is suffering. Earth herself does not have access to these wonderful, vital areas of reproductive energy that she should have access to. And that's because humans are one of the organs on the planet, and the human organ has been perturbed and disrupted by the teachings of the Christian church. And the Christian church comes out of the teachings of Judaism, because, this whole idea of circumcision as a blood sacrifice to the god Jehovah comes from Judaism. When inappropriate sexual partners or people who shouldn't be touching your private areas touch your private areas, it causes this break or this hole in the filter. And what that means afterwards is that the woman is not able to keep out people that she wishes to keep out from her reproductive area. If this is your womb in here, that is supposed to be the sacred canvas upon which you paint new life. Here's a new little baby, and you're supposed to be able to choose who is going to be the daddy of your baby. That is not supposed to be imposed upon you in any way. However, when sexual abuse occurs, the overarching message, the meta message to the female is that you don't get to choose who comes inside of you. And what that means is, if you didn't get to choose to keep out either grandfather or inappropriate uncle or inappropriate brother or inappropriate person on the subway, then you don't get to keep out this inappropriate boyfriend over here. And maybe this inappropriate boyfriend, is abusive. Maybe he likes to punch you and kick you and steal your money. But he still gets to come in and have sex with you anyway, and takes all of your sexual energy in a one-way street without giving sexual energy to you. And you allow that to happen because of the meta program that your filter is broken, that you're not allowed to keep out people who you don't wish to be in. And so there are some women who are so vulnerable to this that they can't say no to these inappropriate sexual contacts. So some, idiot walks up to them and, basically invites them to, be a sexual partner, and they literally do not have the capacity to say no or redirect or get away from that person. That's just ordinary mating and dating. And we're also going to talk about drawing upon females' energy. So in this realm where things are out of balance, males have been cut off from their own divine innate connection to source. Not meant to be that way. Males are supposed to have their beautiful testes connecting to source and creating new life. But because of the way that males have been degraded, males often are not connected to divine creativity. And this is where we get the practice of the muse, that a man has sex with a woman and is able to connect to her divine energy source. Because in order to have babies, you still have to have some connection to the divine energy source. It's amazing that any babies are conceived of or born in any way in this time and place, because they are all conceived in a totally random, blind, unconscious way, and that their mothers give birth to them and manage to nourish them, again, in a totally blind, unconscious way. And when we're talking about appropriate partners versus inappropriate partners, let me draw the time cones that I draw all the time. Here's one time cone, okay? And here's another one in a contrasting color, just so that you can see that it's a different person. and these two time cones overlap here in the green area, all right? So these two people could only meet and interact on timelines that are in this area. So if I stayed on this timeline and you stayed on this timeline, we'd never meet. We'd never get to know each other. We would certainly never see each other's faces. We would certainly never shake hands. We would certainly never touch genitals. We would certainly never make a baby. It is only within this area of coincidence here that a new time cone can be made. A new baby can come of that. But let's say that this baby was never meant to be born. No offense, but some babies that are born are not meant to be born. Literally, if this is the tapestry of time, there's a pattern. It's a conscious, intelligent pattern, and it's supposed to go like that. And you're not supposed to have a big, giant green thread running through like that. That's against the pattern. So if you have this, this person over here and this person over here, and they get together and they make this baby, but this baby is not actually supposed to be part of the overarching pattern. What you have done is you have created energy out of alignment on a galactic scale. So sexual abuse has degraded the capacity for females to keep out unwanted partners, and has made a lot of babies that are not supposed to exist. We have many green threads running at diagonal through the tapestry of time that aren't supposed to be there. It's not like saying people aren't supposed to exist. It's like saying they're supposed to exist, but just not at that angle and in that placement. This is one aspect of satanic abuse. When I say satanic, I am talking about the anti-intelligence force of the universe. If Christ is associated with the brow chakra and intelligence and awareness and consciousness and organization, then Antichrist is associated with anti-intelligence, anti-consciousness, anti-awareness, and going against the pattern, making green threads that don't exist where that exist where there are no threads that are supposed to exist. Let's talk about satanic abuse. This has to be addressed. I would classify satanic abuse as beings who intentionally use their strings of attenuation, their threads of attenuation, to be able to draw upon people esoterically. And it's not just male, it's not just females. So let's say that this person over here is a person who has decided to practice satanic abuse. They can attenuate to, of course, they can attenuate to a woman. They can absolutely attenuate to a man. And sodomy has been practiced as part of ritual satanic abuse. And they can also attenuate to a child, a little tiny baby. This is how we understand sexual abuse of an infant. Sexual abuse of an infant doesn't have anything at all to do with the satisfaction of the person with the penis. It has everything to do with drawing energy from the victim or the person that you are abusing. And satanic abuse, this is like a pyramid scheme. Everything trickles down from the top and everything gets kicked back to the top. So if that's the head demon has abused, these people down here, and those people down there all have their victims of abuse that they draw upon. It's a pyramid scheme where everybody has victims of abuse that they draw energy from in a one-way street. And I've already established that love, true unconditional love, is a two-way street, and it is an equal partnership. So that is the out-of-balance nature and the lack of sovereignty, and that it goes against free will and is not consensual, that makes this abuse. A lot of people that are part of sexual abuse do not understand that it is satanic. So what this means is sometimes it's just, an outlier, like this, one grandfather or whomever who decides to inappropriately touch their grandchildren. But there is a whole system, a whole network of politicians, bankers, people who are elite in that they have a lot of money, and they engage in ritual practices that are all about drawing upon the sexual energy of other people without their consent and using it to manifest realities that serve themselves. Okay? So we've gone from the idea of sexuality as a divine co-creative partnership between, a male and a female who are equally sharing energy with each other, and that results in the beautiful end result of a loving baby, all right? We're contrasting that with the hijacking of the reproductive system into a person taking energy away against their will from people, and instead of divine partnership and co-creative partnership, using that energy for what they want. These are why elements of our own government and religious institutions practice esoteric black magic rituals that involve satanic abuse. They hijack the sexual energy for manifesting and creating in the universe, take it against the will of their victim, and use it to create the events that they wish to create. So, for example, there is an element to the secret society that runs our government that will stage mass murders. So, let's say this is, a diner or a theater or whatever, and there's people in there. Here's all the people sitting, having their dinners, and then here comes, a gun. Here comes a mass murderer who decides that they're going to kill all of these people, go into the movie theater and either shoot them all or go to wherever. This is not by accident. This is all part of satanic sacrifice and satanic abuse. These beings here are the ritual victims, the ritual sacrifice, and the killer is killing them in order to release, energy. And it is done as a quid pro quo. I give you this, you give me this. So the killer does this to release energy, and then the demonic counterpart gives the killer what they want. It's the same thing with sexual energy. A rapist rapes their victim and takes energy away from that person, and then that energy can be used as the quid pro quo in the barter system in the economy of hell. And I've spoken about the economy of hell in lesson 18 of level 1. Our government, our religious institutions, and our banking institutions are all engaged in the pyramid scheme that is the economy of hell. Presidents, bankers, university presidents are all part of this theater of abuse, are all part of this huge system and forum of abuse. Look, these are the individual priests who are each taking energy from their individual altar boys, and so that energy goes uphill, and they send that energy uphill to the actual non-corporeal demon. The Vatican is flat out this hierarchy of abuse. The CIA is this hierarchy of abuse. Many people who are active in high levels of finance and banking are taking part in this hierarchy of abuse. I only have 1 minute left in this recording, and I feel like that is not enough time to delineate or end on a solution or a more positive note, but I will tell you that being aware that these behind the scenes machinations are going on is the first step in being able to heal what is going on. And revocation of these soul contracts that you did not agree to is another key tool to overcoming these limitations. So basically, through the process of soul retrieval, you can get back the energy that was stolen from you by a rapist or from an incestual relationship. That is a lesson for another day. Thank you so much for tuning in today.